Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate. Welcome to my channel, Trinergy Awakens Naturally. This is in a series, I believe it's number 4, that I'm talking about some mental health boundaries and some things, some tips for how we can deal with improving our mental health and staying pretty balanced and equal in our equilibrium and keeping the mood lability, manageable, that we're not flying off the handle in panic or rage or shutting down or whatever. And probably one of the biggest things that I could say towards really coming into a place of helping ourselves, or at least helping me, was learning how to put a big pause, in places so that I'm not so easily triggered. I've got several other videos about, triggers and avoiding them and all of that, and boundaries, and assuming that, we're in a place where we can put a pause, that we haven't flown off somewhere. It can be difficult to put a pause in a place if we're already, down the road, the horse is already out of the barn. It can be a little bit difficult to do much except ride that, let that pony wear itself out. I try to avoid those because I never know where the pony's going or where it's going to wear out, so let's just avoid those. And one of the biggest things that has helped over the years is to learn that the pause, taking a deep breath, these are all things that, I heard from therapists and doctors and, people suggesting great self-help techniques and what have you. And what I could never quite get to is, how do you expect me to take a breath? Because I felt triggered all the time. I mean, constantly. There wasn't really too much time in my day when I wasn't feeling, pressed or, just squeezed by something. Even when I was asleep, I was having nightmares chronically. I mean, nasty, nasty booger nightmares that really frightened me. And during the day, I was feeling constantly frightened. So, it can be hard to tell someone, well, take a breath, like, okay. And then when I take a breath, it didn't instantly cure all my ills. And, that take a breath and a pause thing is stupid because I still feel this way. And what I really could have been told that would have perhaps helped a lot is that when we are encouraged, take a breath, take a pause, even if you don't breathe. I did have a therapist tell me one time, even if you don't breathe, if you don't do anything, just stop, force yourself to stop. Have the courage to stop the reaction that you're having and pause in your minute, a minute, just give it 60 seconds, 30 seconds at a minimum, and 60 seconds in 3 days if you need to before you overreact. That did help. What I didn't continue to do, though, was to keep practicing that until it became, absolutely necessary, that you're going to die if you don't, because you're just going to fly off into traffic or, do something bizarre, and continue to be challenged, by everything around you. So, eventually it got to the point where, look, I'm just too tired. Whatever's going to have to happen is going to have to happen, and I just can't fight it anymore. And that's a really hard road to reach submission. It was very difficult and it was very painful to get there. And so, really, if I'd taken that therapist's advice of just take some time at a minimum, huff, puff, scream in your own mind, however, keep your mouth shut and pause, literally pause, stop what you're doing and then continue doing that. Don't wait on the excuse of, well, I forgot about it. Don't, you're at that point, Kate, where you can't wait. Don't do that. Go 88 and get that stuff moving. And, every week or whatever that I'd see this woman is great, to be told that and then not actually implement it really didn't help me a whole lot until it literally was like, you're gonna just lose your mind if you don't find a better way to respond to this and not even get involved in situations where you're going to possibly get in trouble because you've done something, bizarre. I mean, we are always on that edge that any one of us can go into a million pieces and choose very badly. And I'm very fortunate, that I didn't get too far out or unhinged and out the door with some, stuff that, can't be so panicked you're going to jump out of a car. That's dangerous. And I started really realizing that, oh man, I'm going to places that I'm just out of control. Maybe I need to revisit how to make that pause work. And it was during the times, now I was feeling anxious quite a lot. However, wasn't feeling just triggered, to jump out of a car frequently, thank goodness. But throughout the day, learn how to, okay, I'm having panic that seems to be coming from nowhere. I'm looking around and I'm not seeing, anything except just this anxiety that's residual of years and years and years of anxiety. Then here's where I can practice that pause thing, where I'm going to stop. I won't be able necessarily to stop the emotion or the feeling from happening, but I can definitely stop the adrenaline and the cortisol and all of the, hyped up stuff from getting engaged. I can at least mitigate that and get that one kind of, okay, let's not go super duper, off the edge with it. Let's stop and learn how to take that breath that was recommended, because breathing's super important. However, I had to start where I was, which was just stop moving, stop making noise, stop shrieking about, just stop doing that. And I had to do that for a while. I don't know exactly, but I had to do that. Just stop talking, stop doing anything. You're going to breathe anyway. You're going to breathe anyway. So you can be guaranteed that breathing's going to happen, and it'll happen at a much reduced rate if you're not adding to it by getting all upset, And so put the pause in it with just physically stop whatever you're doing. Physically stop the big motions. And if I needed to, do something like this, take whatever large gesture I was doing and turn that into a smaller one, and eventually graduate into doing nothing physically other than concentrating on breathing. And it turned those pauses into basically where, I'm not as triggered very often. And when I am, or I know I'm starting to feel that anxiety or that, stuff creep in, I can put that pause in much faster, much more efficiently, and for a longer amount of time. The pause went from being, 10 seconds to an hour or whatever, that I can, talk my way through in my own mind, self-soothe and self-talk, through my own experience, where I'm starting to have panic attack on an elevator or something like that. Whereas before, 10 years ago, I'd start to panic on an elevator, feel like, oh my God, and I would be a wreck. I'd be able to keep it all in, and not fall apart exactly. However, I'd be a wreck by the time I got home, and then I'd want to go to sleep, and I did, and which didn't make me a very valuable family member or effective parent or anything else when I'm unconscious, because I couldn't handle the stress that I was having over whatever I was experiencing. So, it really helped every facet of my life. However, it was difficult getting there and understanding, well, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to do that? And the therapist that told me, to stop moving and all that, she was very correct. It was that I wasn't disciplined about, really engaging that. I thought I was, and what I was really doing was just kind of muscling through the anxiety and the feelings of discomfort and all of that, just muscle through it, or take an anti-anxiety or find something else to distract me, rather than, really be in that moment of, okay, I'm going to consciously take control of this. Even if it's for 10 seconds, I'm going to take those 10 seconds and move it in my direction, which is to be still and let it happen. I can let this ride for 10 seconds. And if I could do 10 seconds a day, whatever it was, it gave me the empowerment to know that, look, that's reproducible scientific stuff there. That experiment worked and it was successful to do that. That's scientific proof there, that if you can do it one time, you can reproduce that. Then go on ahead and reproduce that, and stop living in the excuse that I'm too stressed, I'm too this, I'm too that. Very kind with myself about why I was stressed. There's good reason to be stressed. There's good reason why you need to be pausing. However, you creating that same drama back into the situation is not going to help. Well, I couldn't really talk to myself in that logic or in that logical space if I wasn't really getting the pause in and really getting to the place where I felt like I was empowered enough and strong enough that I could take hold of my own emotional well-being. If I'm relying on a pill or a person or something, then I'm going to feel like I really can't overtake that moment of panic or whatever it is, or rage. I have all the emotions just like anybody else. It's just that when I start to feel myself at this point go into one of the extremes with it, whatever it is, whether it would be anger or sadness or panic, whatever it would be, if I start feeling myself going quickly into an imbalance, I know how to take that pause of, hold on a second, there's something in my mind that's telling me that I need to feel this way. And there's absolutely every opportunity where anger is relevant, sadness is relevant. They're human emotion. It would be stupid for me to say that I never get mad, I never get sad. Of course, I have those things. It's when it moves into an extreme where, I find myself wanting to scream because I spilled a cup of coffee or something that happened the other day, and I thought that reaction was so odd. I went, what is it that I'm really upset about? Why am I just going off the deep end because I spilled my coffee? And after I got done with that pause of, okay, breathe and really just sit still for a minute and stop, slamming things around, making it worse. Stop doing that. I started going back in that self-reflection of why was there such an extreme reaction about spilling the coffee? Why was that? Because that's not typically your thing, Kate. You don't do that too much anymore. So what was that about? Let's talk about that. And okay, what was it about? Well, what it was about was that I had exactly enough cream, enough half and half for my coffee to make that morning, and that was it. And I had been fasting, and it was time in the afternoon that I could finally have my coffee after like 24 hours or something, or 36, I don't remember, that I had to fast. And so it was that time in the afternoon where you can have your coffee now. And I hadn't planned well. I hadn't gotten any more half and half. It was cold, it was snowing, I didn't feel like going out, and I didn't want to go out. So I didn't get the half and half, and I didn't go to the store when I could have, and all that other stuff. All those places where I could feel really bad about myself and guilty and ashamed, and all of that comes in a few minutes, right, when I dump the coffee. But I didn't have anything but the amount of half and half that I needed for that cup of coffee. And I just needed or wanted, felt like I needed, obviously, because I was super duper upset. I had only enough for the half a cup of coffee that I could have at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something without being up all night. So, I thought I had planned, all this, and really I'd planned minimal, that I didn't have any backup plan, with any more half and half and all that. And it could have gone into some real areas of, well, I should have done this. Yeah, and we don't do that should thing anymore there, Kate. No, we're not on that. But I had this extreme reaction, and so as I thought about it, it's like, well, it's because I only had that coffee. And now if I want coffee, I have to go to the store, I have to do this, and I realized that was quite an interesting thing for dumping coffee. I learned a lot about myself just with the effort of how we're going to work through your, crumbling over coffee. You've fasted for 36 hours and didn't have it at all, and now you're going to go 24 hours because you just spilled it all over the floor. Then it's not that you can't go without the coffee, it's not life sustaining, and we're not asking you not to breathe. That would be a little more noticeable. So what's the problem again? But that's what I wanted it. I'd been waiting all day, and I finally got to that hour, made it, did all this. And so I then had to work through the anger of, I should have gone to the store, I should have done this, and say, oh, here we are at another part of the paradigm, and we're tearing down that old belief system, Kate, where we're going to start badgering ourselves about, why it fell over. The coffee mug fell over, knocked it over, and it was gone. So do we really, if you'd not knocked it over, you would have been quite happy. You had gotten up in the morning anyway and gone to the store like you'd planned to, and done all of that anyway. So if you hadn't knocked that coffee cup over, this wouldn't be an issue, right? And you wouldn't be having this talk with yourself about what you should have done, to prepare. This would have been an irrelevant conversation, would it not? Oh, yeah, but I did knock it over. And okay, well, let's talk about that. You could have gone to the store. You could have done a lot of things, but you didn't. And let's get the lesson of, is it really necessary to have prepared for the possibility that you might not, get that cup of coffee because you spilled it? Is it best to really go to OCD with making sure you have 3 gallons of half and half just in case? Because that's how you used to live. And were you happy there? No, not really. Okay, well then let's talk about how we work through the butt hurt over you're not having coffee. You spilled it, and if you're not willing to go to the store, whether you wanted to or not, if you're not willing to go to the store now at 4:30 and get the half and half now, then can you really sit here and be just totally pissed off and hate the world and blah, 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 blah? Or can we just take accountability for the fact that it was an accident, you spilled it, and you're not really willing to go out to the store to get half and half to have the coffee that you'd like to have the way you want it? So, it was working through a lot of stuff, and well, no, I'm really not willing to do that. Then how badly do you really want that coffee? Not bad enough I want to go there. I want it to be easy. Oh, there we are. So we're having a temper tantrum. Which is okay. I allow myself to have those. That's how it happened in the first place. It's that temper tantrum, as a grown, mature lady, I can't let that go on forever. That turns into a way of life, and I already did that. And then, OCD is how you start preparing for, not spilling your coffee. And, etc. So, look at the overall picture, see where you are emotionally, that you're disappointed. You're not going to have the coffee. You're not so disappointed that you're willing to change what you're doing, though, and actually go back. Oh, go out and to the store to get more of the half and half. And you're also not willing to have coffee without it. So you could meet your need of having coffee. It's just, and a lot of times, we don't go into those self-reflective places, which is unfortunate because we don't really get all the information that would be most helpful to help us deal with, creating those pauses where it's more easy, where it's easier, more easily done. It's more easily done to be able to get to the chuckle of it after a little while when I realized, oh, I'm just stomping and carrying on, having myself a good old hissy fit because I'm not having my coffee, damn, and I don't want to go to the store. That can be a little bit hurtful, like butt hurt, like, I don't want to do that, and we're allowed to have those. I find that my butt hurt and my temper tantrums are best done at home or best done internally with, I'm going to have to just have a minute with myself and not involve other people because it's not anybody else's fault. I could have screamed at my cat. I could have thrown the mug. I could have done a lot of stuff, but it's not anybody else's fault. I'm the one who dumped it. And even if somebody else had, it still results in the same end game of the coffee's on the ground and, you're here throwing a fit. And can we get to the reason why that would be most beneficial? It's because I felt denied that, I had to be fasting. I wasn't eating either. I was fasting and, a cup of coffee just sounded like the beast. And, so I wasn't getting what I wanted, and I felt deprived of what I wanted, and then I felt punished because, I hadn't done all of this other stuff. And that's a lot of that old, toxic and codependent paradigm stuff that many of us grew up in, we lived in, and we cultivated, huge problems with it, where we end up in those few minutes. If we're going to do that introspection consistently, routinely, and force ourselves into better habits, if we're not doing that, we can really feel just in a place of victimization constantly, and then that pause becomes even more difficult to have because we're too busy, in the feelings of I'm not getting what I want, and this is frightening me, and I deserve to have coffee, of course. There's no reason why I wouldn't. Even if I hadn't been fat, or if I had fasted and had it, I deserve to have it. It's just I don't deserve to get accurate results if I'm gonna, to my blood test if I, do that. So we deserve whatever we think we deserve, and we can usually give many good reasons for it. However, coming to the butt hurt and just realizing what it was really about was I felt punished after I didn't get what I wanted, and I'd waited, and all these things, and that's really about far more than most people want to investigate whenever they happen to dump a cup of coffee. That's how I create those pauses, though, and make them work for me, is take those moments where there's been an extreme reaction or a pattern where I seem to consistently run into with this, because really the best place to live for human beings in general is, that very peaceful place where we aren't rankled by something like spilling coffee or, getting in traffic jam or something, that we can have the frustration. It's many of us don't want to take responsibility for the fact that, we could have prevented it perhaps, or worse, we don't want to, deal with the fact that we couldn't prevent it. We feel victimized either way, that I'm being punished. And the truth is that I could have been more prepared. However, the beauty of getting into that pause moment is, can we pause and just see the workup, the history, the etymology of how this was created, and then don't get into that old paradigm about, well, I should have done that, I should have done that. Yeah, that creates a whole bunch of bad feelings, doesn't it, Kate? Why, yes, it does. Then why would we? Why don't we take the learning point is that you really could have what you want. You just don't want to go get it more than you want to have the coffee. You want to not get the coffee more than you want to get the coffee. And guaranteed easiness of either of those things is not going to happen. It's just not. And I don't know, get to be guaranteed that I'm always going to get my needs met or that I'm going to be happy about things. That's where, I get mistaken routinely with, you don't get have things your way always. You have to get okay with them not going your way and not losing your mind in the midst of it. Well, I don't want that because it's easier. It's not necessarily as emotionally balanced or healthy, to know that we don't always get what we want. Sometimes we get disappointed. It's a matter of how can I deal with that disappointment and then keep going, not berate myself, for 3 years, 3 days, 3 minutes, whatever it is about, well, I smell the coffee, so it was an accident, It's an accident. It's not like your whole place was set on fire. Put things into perspective and then create, on the small stuff, create those pauses on the small stuff. so that when the bigger stuff, that we truly have been victimized by something, or something, like the apartment burns down, then we can deal with it, because we've practiced those smaller places and work through the butthurt of what. But I wanted that. Okay, you wanted that, and you're not getting that unless this happens instead. Okay, well, that's part of, growing up and just realizing that, all right, I'm gonna have to just deal with this. This is what the reality is, and I'm not willing to do this or this or this. Then, okay, what are you willing to do? Okay, get the lesson and just realize that things happen, and be kind to yourself. It's easier to get to those pauses, to be able to breathe, to put in 10 seconds. If I'm empowered enough to get the 10 seconds, a few years ago, 10 seconds of not creeping out, wigging out, and going into a weird direction seemed impossible. And now, okay, so I have an extreme reaction to my coffee issue, and got over it within 3 or 4 minutes. I was able to work through the extreme frustration. The first clue was, you're having an extreme frustration about this. Let's have the rest of this fit, get that out of the way, so that we can move on to what's most important. Is that I'm feeling deprived. I'm feeling because I was hungry, and I was just really wanting that. That's how I start my day usually, and that's something I really enjoy. So get through all of that and understand that's just emotional wounding from somewhere else where you didn't get something else, and it has nothing to do with coffee. Absolutely nothing to do with coffee. Have some tea instead, and keep it pushing, keep it moving, and be grown up about it. Once you get past the somewhat juvenile response there, Kate, go ahead and have the stomp session for a second, and don't make it very long as the coffee's dripping down from your desk onto the floor and ruining the carpet. Keep that limited, so that there's the awareness that, this isn't just about stomp for 30 minutes about it. Have the fit and the keep that limited, that we're not knocking things around and making things worse. And also keep it moving with the cleaning products, and learn to streamline that so that it moves through much faster, and it doesn't continue to be a way of life that has ruined your whole day tomorrow because this happened tonight. Deal with things as they come, and learn to take 10 seconds at a time, whatever it takes, so that we're not panicked and angry, or panicked or angry, all these emotions that are just extreme. So I hope that has helped you in some way, and please get inside to your skin. In your skin, within your divine, is absolutely fine. It can help guide you. Your own intuition, your own Mother Nature skills can help guide you through those situations where I feel like I'm out of control. And the empowerment is to be able to surrender to yourself in the moment of, where am I really with this? I feel panic, I feel this, I feel that. And then start asking your own self, how can I get 10 seconds to breathe and take a hold of this situation before I completely, go jackrabbit left and make some real terrible decisions here, and it's really just about building that skill and that faith that, all right, if I did 10 seconds, that's reproducible. Science experiment on that says that I did that, then I can do it again. It's reproducible, and then I can do it again. And I can grow the ability to turn that from 10 seconds into 10 minutes eventually, even if it took me a year. If I'm consistently working on it and making progress, then I'm making progress, and it doesn't matter what my old monkey mind might tell me, or somebody else's monkey mind might tell me. That's not what it's about. It's about get in there and start making the improvements, and don't lose your mind because of a cup of coffee, And if you do, lose it for the right reason. So, and then gain it back quickly. So take care of yourselves. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again. Be well. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.